and happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to a Slice of Pie podcast, where we talk about with some of the best people that live along the South Carolina coast in Pawleys Island, Murrells Inlet, and Georgetown. My name is Kat Loftus, and I work with Peace Sotheby's International Realty in Pawleys Island. And I did want to let you know, I recently listed a house down in Georgetown at South Island Plantation, 709 Belle Rive Road. So go check that out, either in my social media or go to Zillow, Realtor.com, or the Peace Sotheby's website and look up 709 Belle Rive Road. You'll love it. It's just a great home down in South Island Plantation. This week, we are talking with meteorologist Frank Johnson. I'm sure many of y'all know Frank and his great family. He's been with WBTW News 13 since 2007, so that's 16 years. He was named South Carolina Weathercaster of the Year in 2014 and 2015. Frank is going to talk to us all about our hurricane season and about weather. He's going to show us the fruit trees that he grows in his backyard, and we're going to talk about his skill at beekeeping, and he's going to show me where the bees live in his yard. I just had the best time talking with Frank and talking about all the things he likes to do, and always learn something new about everybody. So you're going to enjoy listening and hearing about Frank too. So sit back and enjoy episode 17 of a Slice of Pie podcast. Frank, how you doing?
Excellent. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for joining us on our podcast today.
You're welcome.
We have Frank Johnson with us today from WBTW News 13 in Florence. Is that correct?
Florence and Myrtle Beach.
Florence and Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
So, Frank, I've got to start off by asking you this question:
Okay.
Are we out of hurricane season?
Yes, we are. We along the Grand Strand, which includes Pawleys Island, we have never had a hurricane after Halloween. The latest in the season we've ever had a hurricane has been Halloween. That was back in 1899.
Okay.
Had a Halloween storm.
So officially, hurricane season is not over until
November 30th.
November.
It goes for another month, and technically it's possible, but just the way the weather systems move, it's so much colder today. This cold air really protects us from hurricanes.
Okay, good. That's good, because colder water.
And the air, the cold air comes from the north and from the west.
Okay.
And that wind blows hurricanes away. They have a hard time heading our way.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's peace of mind. So we're so glad you're with us, and I want to start out by asking you, where were you born and where'd you go to school?
All right. I was born in Massachusetts, and I went to school at Penn State, and I've kind of lived all over the country. You know, even though I was born in Massachusetts, I haven't been a Yankee for more than half my life. I mean, it's been decades. When I was hired to move to South Carolina, my boss at the time told me, if people asked where I came from, the answer is not Massachusetts. The answer is I moved here from Oklahoma. That apparently is acceptable.
But that's the truth.
It is.
It is the truth.
And
right.
there's a lot of perception, and people don't like Northerners who come down here and tell everybody what to do. So technically, I'm not a Northerner. I came from the West, and I just enjoy life as it is here in the Low Country.
Well, you know, we've come to love everybody that's moved here because, you know, I'm a realtor.
Yep.
And everybody's money spends the same. So I have met a lot of nice people that have moved from other places here.
Yes.
So we welcome all people and encourage everybody to get along, and hope everybody is getting along.
Yeah.
And, you know, you learn different things when people come from different cultures.
That's right.
You can always learn something new from other people's cultures. So, all right, tell us about your family.
I'm married to Susan. We've been married for 20-something years. You lose count after a while. We have 3 children, Chloe, Olivia, and Eli. Chloe and Olivia are both at college, and Eli is at Waccamaw Middle School.
I thought he was already in high school. He's so tall now.
They grow fast.
Yeah, and he plays sports for Waccamaw.
Football season just ended, and he is already excited about baseball.
Well, great. Well, we're so glad he's going to be playing for the Warriors. So you were talking about coming from Oklahoma. When you first started out working in the weather business, where did you start, and then where did you move to along the way?
My first job was at AccuWeather, which is a private weather company, and they forecast anything. I mean, any company that needs to know what the weather is going to be AccuWeather will make a forecast for them. So it's not just TV or radio, it's airlines, it's snowplow companies, it's departments of transportation, it's newspapers, um, and it's global. They're a global company. So it was a lot of fun, and I got great experience learning how to forecast, not just in the United States, but other other places. And one of the big things I did was I was on the radio. I worked an overnight shift. I think one of my proudest moments was I used to do the overnight radio for WBZ, which is the AM powerhouse station in Boston, Massachusetts. And my grandmother would hear me at night. She'd listen to Larry Glick at night, the talk show host, and I would come on and do the weather, and she would get all excited about it.
Yeah, she made her evening.
Yes.
I know she was so proud. Okay, so after you left there, where did you go?
Yeah.
Did you meet Susan somewhere in there? Where did you meet Susan?
Well, officially we met when we were waiting tables. We were both the summertime from college and in Gloucester, Massachusetts. She was going to San Diego State University. I was going to Penn State, and we both ended up back home for the summer. But there's a weird story to this because our first day working together, we were clocking out at the same time, and I noticed her name. And I'm like, oh, Susan Greeley, I've got your phone number in my address book. And I showed it to her because I had it in my car for whatever reason. And
So it wasn't a line. You really had her.
I really had, when we were both in fourth or fifth grade or middle school or something like that, when we were little, it was a half day from school. And we grew up in neighboring towns, so we didn't go to school together. There was really no way for us to get to know each other. But her and a group of her friends were in my town on a half day, and I was with a group of my boyfriends, kind of walking around, and we bumped into each other and exchanged phone numbers. And I had it.
And you saved it all those years.
10 years later or something like that. It worked.
There you go. There you go. All right. So when you got married, did you stay up there, or where did y'all move to?
We moved all over the place. We were at AccuWeather for a while together. I was a meteorologist. She worked in sales. After that, we moved to Colorado. We worked at KREX, which is a TV station in Grand Junction, Colorado. Same sort of thing. I was a meteorologist. She worked in sales. Same arrangement when we moved to Beaumont, Texas. Or excuse me, no. In Beaumont, the TV station hired me, but they wouldn't hire her. They didn't. They didn't like to hire husband-wife teams. So she ended up getting a job at Talbot's, the women's clothing store.
I love Talbot's.
And that was just great because they moved her. Whenever I got a job, I moved to Amarillo, Texas. They have a store in Amarillo, so they installed her there as a manager. And when we moved to Oklahoma City, I got a job in TV, and she got a job at one of their stores in Oklahoma City. So it was a perfect arrangement.
It worked out good.
Yeah.
So then, how did you get to South Carolina? How did you get to Pawleys Island?
It was when we were in Oklahoma City, which I loved. Oklahoma gets a lot of grief as being a flyover state, but it's beautiful. Land is cheap. So we lived in the city and had, like an acre of land. We just had this enormous front yard, huge backyard. You can have a lot of toys in Oklahoma. Everything's very affordable. But we did have children there. We had two children. And in one of our plane rides to go home to visit family, we were sitting there, me, Susan, Chloe, and we had Olivia on our lap. And we looked at each other and said, next year we're going to have to buy 4 tickets. And we're like, this is getting expensive. To drive to see family is a 2-day drive. We need to really move back closer to family. And at the time, my family was still in Massachusetts. Susan's family is in Florida. And the Carolinas are right in between.
So you looked for job openings?
Yeah. And at the time, there were 3 that I was in the running for, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and there was a cable station in Charlotte. And the one that worked out was Myrtle Beach, WBTW.
Well, we're so glad you're here. We're glad.
Yeah.
And you've been here a while now.
It's been almost 17 years.
Wow.
And WBTW is an awesome station. If you look at the people that work there, they stay there a long time. It's a great place to work, nice modern facility. and just a fun job.
Okay, so if people want to access WBTW, I know you have a sister station called Fox.
Yes.
Right. So you do the weather on Fox also.
Yeah, and that's the Fox News at 10. It's at 10 o'clock. WBTW is not on Spectrum Cable in Georgetown County.
Are they on HTC?
I don't think so.
Can you stream WBTW?
They don't do streaming. They do, but it's on a 2-hour delay. You can probably get WBTW on rabbit ears or on an antenna.
How about that?
We have a translator in Surfside Beach, so that probably goes all the way to Georgetown County.
Spectrum and HTC would pick you back up, because I used to have this great habit in the evening while I was cooking in the kitchen. I would watch you, and then Jeopardy would come on afterwards, and that really kind of bummed me out when I couldn't find you.
Yeah, it's all the whole corporate thing and the just broadcasting. I mean, technically, Georgetown County is in Charleston's TV market, so we get all the Charleston TV stations.
Well, anyway, we're glad you're still forecasting the weather. Yeah. And what do you like about the weather? And when did you first know that this was a job that you wanted to do? Did you know from a young age?
I've always been fascinated. Whenever we had a big storm growing up, I was on the beach or I was watching the TV to see what's just something I've always been interested in. I carried that passion through high school, and when it was time to figure out where I wanted to go to college, I decided meteorology. Penn State at the time was the #1 meteorology school in the country, so it was great to go there.
So like you like watching a thunderstorm develop. You like watching storms develop, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And it's something I don't get to experience firsthand a lot, because a lot of times when we have storms, I'm working.
Yeah.
But one of the things I just talk about with kids, little kids are a lot of times afraid of thunderstorms. Thunder and lightning can be scary. And I just encourage them to experience it, to not be afraid of it, just to watch it, to do the little tricks where you can see the flash of lightning and then count the number of seconds between the lightning and the thunder. And it really just opens their eyes up to the science behind weather. And that alleviates a lot of that fear.
Yeah. But you are fascinated by the storms or by the wind or whatever comes along.
And I love the challenge of forecasting as well. I've been doing this for decades, and occasionally, once in a great while, I miss a forecast. It doesn't happen often. But that's what I love about it. There's still a challenge. It's not easy.
Well, it's a science.
It's a science.
It's not
and,
exact.
If it was easy and I got it right all the time, I'd be bored. It's still challenging.
Talk to me about when you leave the station and go talk to groups, what are some of the groups you go out and talk to?
A lot of schools, a lot of churches.
Did some of the school groups come in?
Yes, and that's something we've just really started up again after COVID. That stopped with COVID, but WBTW, the building is a new facility. It's right next to McDonald's up there, the back end of the old Air Force Base, right on 17 bypass. And when they designed it and when they built it not just to get TV on air, but as a facility where we could have school groups go around. And for instance, our studio is 2 floors tall. It's got a big, huge, tall ceiling, and on the second floor, it's all lined with windows, so school groups can go up there, or anybody can go up there and look down on us doing the news. And it's just really a tour-friendly building. And so we have school groups that come in. Often I'll go to classes and talk to them as well.
As a former teacher, I know that's some of our South Carolina state standards is to teach about weather and things.
2nd grade, 4th grade.
It is. So we appreciate you coming to visit the schools and giving your expertise to the kids. Also, you go to church groups. When you stand up in front of church groups, what do you say? What are you talking to them about?
That is almost exclusively hurricane preparation, and it's just a reminder that we live in an area with hurricanes. It's a call to reach out to people that have just moved here. As a realtor, real estate's booming here. We have people moving here by the thousands, and a lot of them move here from places that don't have hurricanes. And that's probably one of the biggest hangups of people moving here. They're afraid of hurricanes. And so when I speak to the church groups, it's a reminder, okay, if you've been here for generations, for decades, and you remember Hurricane Hugo, or you remember your grandparents talking about Hurricane Hazel. It's not just the big storms. You got to prepare every single year, and it's for the new people. Don't be afraid of hurricanes. All you have to do is really just prepare. If you know today what you're going to do if we get a storm next year, then you're not panicking in the days up to the storm. You just do what you've planned to do and hope for the best.
Let's talk about evacuation plans for just a
Mhm.
second. So say we had a sizable storm coming our way, a 4 or a 5, or maybe a 3. So when we evacuate, or when we evacuate with our pets,
Mhm.
how far inland should we go when we evacuate?
The evacuations are really just to get away from the storm surge, and that is
Meaning the water?
the saltwater flooding. That is the number one killer in hurricanes, is the saltwater flooding. A lot of people, like a lot of the memories from Hurricane Hugo in 1989, people laugh. They're like, oh, we went all the way to Charlotte for Hurricane Hugo, and it was worse there than it was here. Yes, the winds are going to be really bad inland. There's going to be a lot of rain and freshwater flooding. There's going to be power outages and trees down. But when we evacuate on the coast, we're running away from the saltwater storm surge. That's what kills a lot of people. So really, you only have to go inland a few miles. You don't have to go all the way to Charlotte. If you go to Andrews, if you go, a lot of Georgetown County shelters are Andrews. They're Pleasant Hill. They're the communities right up against Williamsburg County. That's far enough.
Well, thank you for saying that. If people have never evacuated before, that's good to know that you don't have to go all the way up to Greenville or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you do need to take care of your pets, and most hotels will accept pets now, I believe. A lot of them do accept pets now.
That was a big thing after Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, in Louisiana. A lot of even the public shelters, people evacuated with their pets, and they'd get to a shelter or a hotel, and they'd say, I'm sorry, you can't bring the pet in. And then they have to make that horrible decision. Do I just let my pet go to keep myself safe, or do I put myself in danger so I can stay with my pet? We learned a lot of lessons since then, and there are many options for pet owners. Still something you need to figure out ahead of time, but we're not going to get to that place where you're going to have to make that horrible decision.
Yeah, and I think on most hotel websites, they do say pets are welcome.
Yeah.
And actually, Pat and I, we had to go up to visit Anna Margaret, and she wanted to see her dogs. So there was a Hampton Inn there that had a specified room for dogs. And we were able to bring our big dogs into that hotel. So It was amazing that we could do that. Let's move on to behind you, you've got a lot of fruit trees. You've got a lot of hobbies. So can you tell us about some of your hobbies that you have?
Okay. I like gardening, which is something I do for work now. So where my gardens used to be, the lawn has grown back over. I do all of my gardening right now at WBTW.
What are you growing in the garden?
Well, this time of year, it's lettuce, winter greens, collard greens, kale, mustard, onions, garlic, stuff that'll survive the winter. Peas. I still have some summertime stuff growing. We haven't really had a freeze yet, but heading into the winter, I get a lot of greens.
What do you grow in the summer?
In the summer, just everything normal.
Tomatoes?
Yeah, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, whatever grows. And growing in South Carolina can be tricky. People that move here from up north plant, say they plant lettuce, say in June. Well, lettuce doesn't grow here in the summer. It's just too hot. Tomatoes are really tough to grow here in the summer because it's hot. You plant them early in the spring, or you plant them in the fall, and you get the best tomatoes. So it's really dependent on the weather.
So it's easier to grow tomatoes in the fall?
You can grow them in the fall. You plant them in August, and they'll be ready this time of year, October, November. And then when you're planting your tomatoes in the spring, you want to. I start mine from seed in January indoors.
Wow.
And then I transplant them outside around April Fool's Day. Try to get them as close to the last freeze without actually getting the freeze.
So behind you, there is a tree that is heavy laden with oranges.
Yes.
And then over your other shoulder, there's a lime tree and a lemon tree.
Yeah.
So how do you get oranges, lemons, and limes to grow in South Carolina?
The lemon and lime, they're in pots. So they come indoors when it gets cold in the wintertime. The orange tree behind me, I've got a grapefruit tree right there, and a little tiny orange tree in the back. That one will start growing or producing in 5 years. But those are in the ground and they grow year round outside. There's a trick to growing those in South Carolina. They are grafted to a citrus root that will withstand our cold weather. It's called trifoliate. And so there's a farmer in Florence County, close to Scranton, and he, Stan the citrus man, Mackenzie Farms, and he grafts these different citrus trees to the trifoliate root, and then you can plant it in the ground, and you get a full-grown orange tree. That orange tree has over 1,000 oranges on it.
Did you, how long has that orange tree been there?
That one is about 14 or 15 years old.
Wow, it's still so healthy.
Mm-hmm.
How old is your grapefruit tree?
Grapefruit's about 12 years old.
And you told me a trick about your grapefruit tree when the temperatures get too cold. What do you do?
Well, both of them have Christmas lights on them.
What kind of Christmas lights?
They're the old-fashioned incandescent bulbs that get warm.
The big bulbs.
Yeah, they're not the LEDs. LEDs don't get warm,
Yeah.
But the big ones that, they're almost hot to the touch. I turn them on. It's really important the first 5 years these are growing. If we get a freeze, it'll kill them. So I like the little one I've got over there. I'm going to put a frame around it, and I'll put a tarp over it whenever it gets cold. The big trees, my grapefruit is supposed to be good down to 15 degrees. And
that's the grapefruit tree right there. To 15 degrees?
Yeah, and the orange tree is supposed to be good down to 20 or something like that.
So say tonight, now we are getting a little bit of cold weather this week, but say tonight it went down to 30 degrees, so you turn the lights on, correct?
Yes.
At what temperature do you know to turn those lights on?
My threshold's 40. If it gets below 40, bam, the lights come on.
So how long do they stay on?
Just overnight, and in the morning I turn them off. Although last winter over Christmas when it got really cold, I kept them running 24/7. We got down, what did we get down to, 18 degrees or something like that? My orange tree was fine, but believe it or not, the grapefruit tree, I thought I had lost it. It's a little younger than the orange tree, and it dropped all of its leaves. Obviously, it came back, but I only have, I think, about 15 grapefruit on it this year. So
that's a lot. I think that's a lot. What kind of grapefruit is it?
It's ruby red. They're delicious.
And what kind of oranges are you growing?
It's a mandarin orange. It's a Satsuma mandarin.
Are they seedless?
Most of them are seedless.
Can you go get one for it?
Yeah.
Show it?
Yeah.
I've
got my clippers here.
Okay, Frank. So here we are at your orange tree.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut one off.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a nice one. They've just started ripening, and they turn orange in October. It really takes until
they turn orange in October.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I harvest these in October, November, and then into December.
That's amazing.
I mean, they peel very easily.
Looks just like the mandarin oranges I buy in the grocery store.
Yeah, they're kind of like cuties.
Yep.
But they're a little bigger, and they're really sweet too. They're delicious.
That's great. Can I have a bite?
Yeah, of course.
Let me try. Oh my gosh, that is so good.
And they're ripe,
So sweet.
ripe now, but when we get a nice frost or a light freeze, 31, 32 degrees, it really sweetens the oranges up. And I'll leave them on the tree. They'll be fine at 31 or 32 degrees. The first time we get down like 28, when we get a hard freeze, it'll freeze the good part on the inside. And once that freezes, it turns to mush. Like if you were to put it in the freezer at home,
right?
You can't eat the orange after that. So hopefully, because I've got over 1,000 oranges, and eating 2 or 3 a day, I'll never be able to eat them all. But if we don't get a freeze until December or so, they stay on the tree.
All right. I want to just get a little quick peek of your Christmas lights down in there.
Okay.
There they are. And they stay on year round, right?
I usually take them on and off. I made a mistake Well, I experimented this year by leaving them on, but look at this. Notice how taut this is. It's really, I should have taken it off because they get heavy. Um, you know, hundreds of oranges weighs a lot, and so that weight is on these wires, and I'm afraid it's going to break the wires.
So
Next year I'll take them off.
okay, so this tree has the Christmas lights.
Yes.
And then
They
your grapefruit tree. I just want to get a quick shot of the lime tree, lemon tree real quick. All right, come back over here to your grapefruit. Do you have a low hanging grape? Oh, here's one.
They're starting to turn color. They're still a little green. I don't pick them when they've got a little green on
So
them.
when will you pick these?
As soon as they turn more yellow. I'm sure they'll be delicious now. And there's a couple of them there. There's a bunch of them over
It's a
here.
big old tree.
And see, they're still kind of green. Hopefully another few weeks. If we get a frost tomorrow night, or it's supposed to get cold tomorrow night, that may hurry up them ripening.
Do you like to eat a grapefruit for breakfast?
Yeah.
I love a good grapefruit for breakfast. Okay, so you are also a beekeeper.
I am.
And how did you get into that?
When I had the garden out here, I had problems with pollination, like cucumbers. For a cucumber to get full size, it needs multiple visits by a bee on the same flower. You know, bees have to visit it dozens of times. Otherwise, it gets really shrivelly at the end and it doesn't fill out. I had that issue, and so researched it, realized I didn't have a whole lot of bees. And at the same time, there was a study by the University of San Francisco. They were studying bees, and I signed up for the study. They would send me a packet of sunflower seeds, and they asked me to plant the sunflower, and once it bloomed, go out there for 5 minutes a day and just count the number of bees. And I did that for 1 year. The second year I did it again, but the second year I got good enough at identifying the bees, so I could say there's a honeybee, you know, there's a carpenter bee, there's a green bee, whatever the different bees were. And at that point there weren't a lot of bees. So I'm like, I want my own bees. And so I
To help with the pollination
Yes.
of the plants you were growing.
Yeah, I initially had them right outside in my backyard, right near my garden. And that worked for a couple of years, but they get cranky. They're moody like people are. And when they're in a bad mood, they buzz you. And I've never been stung just walking around my yard, but you get nervous that's going to happen. When Hurricane Matthew hit, I lost a ton of trees. I lost over a dozen trees in my side yard, and it cleared out a big, huge area. I moved the bees there, and they've been happy ever since.
When you go maintain the bees, whatever you have to do, or look for honey, do you wear a suit?
Yeah, I do.
Can we go over there and see
Yeah,
your bees?
let's look at
Let's
them.
walk over this way. Okay. And do you buy the bees, or how do you get the bees?
I have bought the bees in the past, but they're very expensive. And
Where does one buy bees?
you can order them online,
Uh-huh.
or you can go to a beekeeping club.
Oh, that's a pretty. I love your
Camellia.
I love your camellia. It's gorgeous.
Um,
Okay, so you can go to a beekeeping club.
yeah, and there's one in Horry County. I don't think Georgetown County has a beekeeping club, but in Conway there's the Blackwater Beekeeping Club, and I bought bees from them the first time around, and they're really helpful.
But you told a story. I think I heard you tell a story about somebody locally that had a swarm of bees
Yes.
and needed somebody to come get them. What was that?
That's how I've gotten my bees since then. In the last few years, I decided that bees are really expensive. I don't want to buy bees only to have them fly away or die. There's a lot of stuff in our environment that kills bees. It's difficult to keep bees as a hobby, and especially where we are in the Waccamaw Neck, we have a lot of golf courses. And I'm not blaming golf courses, but they do use pesticides and herbicides to make the greens and everything pretty. And that's something that bees don't like. That weakens them. And so one of the things I do is I will capture a swarm. And several years I got one out of Devido. Just this past summer on Facebook, somebody posted, I've got a swarm of bees in my backyard. It was on their dock on the Waccamaw River. And I went over the next morning and I vacuumed them up.
You have a special bee vacuum?
It's a box that's attached to a vacuum. and it's all foam on the inside. So I can turn the vacuum on and suck all the bees into the box, and they don't splat because of the foam.
Okay, so will you show us the
Yes.
behind? So and then you bring the box of bees back over here.
Yep.
Are you wearing your suit then?
Yes. I almost always wear my suit.
Okay.
But there they are. The taller one is the one that has bees in it. The other one is empty. I just stored it out there for the summer because I didn't have room. It's kind of cool today, so it's not very active. But if you look once in a while, you'll see a bee come out and fly away.
That's a little cute little bee decoration you have on top of that. What is that?
That's a trophy from the spelling bee.
Spelling bee, yeah. One of your girls won that?
They both did.
Oh, well, good.
I think one of them won it twice.
So that was so nice of them to donate their trophy to the beehive. So what happens to the bees when it gets cold outside?
They stay inside. They only fly when it's over 50 degrees. The warmer it is, the more active they are. This hive, it's only, you can see it's only one box. It's not very tall. I just caught this 2 months ago. And so the bees have spent the last 2 months building out the honeycomb, laying eggs, raising babies, building up their population. I'm not taking any honey out of this year because they need the honey to survive the winter. We don't have a whole lot of flowers in the winter where we are. We have some, but not enough to feed all the bees. And so they store honey in the summer to last through the winter. Next spring, when it starts to get warm again and we start to get flowers blooming, I will put a second box on top of that, and that will allow them to build out more honeycomb, to lay more eggs, to increase their population. And once the population of the bees is 2 boxes tall, then I'll put a third, a fourth, a fifth box on top of it, and that will be honey from me. But the big boxes, these are called full-size supers, they are just for the bees' living space.
Okay. Also, I noticed you have a beekeeper sign in your yard. What's the purpose of the beekeeper sign?
Georgetown County provides that as a benefit to beekeepers. They will, if you let them know you're a beekeeper, when they drive the mosquito trucks by, they turn off the spray until they get past my house, and then they'll turn it back on again. They also offer a courtesy when they spray by airplane. They will call, text, email the day before and the day of, letting me know. And so I'll bring a beach umbrella, and I'll put the beach umbrella so that the mist that comes out of the plane doesn't land on the hive.
That's a lot. So for beekeepers, if we have any local beekeepers, they need to register. How do they register?
Just the mosquito control, Georgetown County mosquito control.
They just make a phone call?
Yeah, and they love it. They're really proactive about minimizing the environmental damage that spraying for mosquitoes causes. We have to do it. We're not going to live where there's 5 million mosquitoes, but there are better ways to control them aside from killing everything that flies. And the life cycle of a bee, bees live about 45 days or so, and mosquitoes live a week. And so if you go and kill mosquitoes and kill bees, the mosquitoes are going to be back in 4 or 5 days. The bees are going to take a good month before they recoup their damages.
Wow, that's a lot. But we need bees for pollination of all the plants, correct?
We do. But we also don't want to live in a world where you can't step outside because of mosquitoes.
Right.
There's a happy balance in there.
There
is. Georgetown County is really proactive. If you remember, I noticed it because I'm into the beekeeping, but earlier this year they experimented with different types of mosquito spray that is less harmful for other beneficial insects. So they're trying to do other things aside from just killing everything.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to know that our county's like looking out for the environment and looking out for the bees. So you grow fruit trees, you grow vegetables and flowers.
This is a pomegranate.
It is not. Is it really? When did you get are there some dead ones on there?
No, I haven't had fruit yet.
Oh.
Which is sad because I planted it in 2016.
Pomegranate's a big fruit. It's a big.
Yes.
It's a big one.
It does have really pretty flowers in the spring. It has huge, large, dark red flowers.
Wow.
So
Okay, so besides gardening, all your fruit trees and the bees, are there anything else, any other hobbies you have? Like you like to be outside, it sounds like a
Like to
lot.
be outside. I I like to pick up litter.
Uh-huh.
I,
Oh,
or,
the beach sweep,
I
yeah.
organize the Pawleys Island Beach Sweep every fall, the third Saturday of September. We do it 9 to noon. We meet at the North Causeway Nature Park, but that's just once a year. I'm also involved with the litter-free Waccamaw Neck. It's a group that we pick up trash along the side of the road, specifically on 17 between Hog Heaven and the bridges. There's that
Yes.
long stretch of several miles.
Y'all must have done it recently because I'm seeing some black bags on the highway.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
Thank you for doing
Yeah,
that.
and Georgetown County does it. They have litter control as well, but you clean that area, and 2 days later, there's garbage on the side of the road.
Not sure why that's
So
happening. It must be flying out of cars.
it is. It
I'm
is.
sure people wouldn't be littering on purpose.
Yeah, it's not. It's stuff that, but it's important to, if you're hauling trash, to cover up the load on your pickup truck so that doesn't happen. But I also like to walk around the neighborhood too. So
And do y'all ever? I think y'all like to kayak. Do y'all kayak?
we do kayak, paddle boarding. Susan, her part-time job is she is a guide at the Black River Cypress Preserve. It's a brand new park, a private park out near Andrews. So it's by reservation only, but it's free. So if you ever want to bike or hike in their area, they're also gearing up to do kayaking too along the Black River.
Do they have a website?
They do.
You know what it is?
I'm not sure the exact website.
Say
but
the name of the park again.
It's Black River Cypress Preserve.
Okay, and is it private?
It's private.
Black River Cypress Preserve. I'm sure
Yes.
you can find it on the internet.
And it's all part of that. They're making the Black River into a state park, from Kingstree all the way down to Georgetown. Like 150 miles worth of river is going to be state park. And Georgetown County is heavily involved in this. There are public parks along there. This is part of it that's a private park.
Well, you enjoy being in Pawleys Island, it sounds like.
Oh, yes,
And
absolutely.
you plan to stay here for a while.
I do.
Well, we're so glad that you and Susan and your family have been here and been a part of our town and brought so many great services and give of yourself and growing the fruit, setting a good example for the rest of us, picking up the litter. Now, I have to ask one more question. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you because they had a swarm of bees, how could they get in touch with you?
The best way the way I found the last few has been on Facebook.
So if somebody puts it on Facebook, I have a swarm of bees.
But I'm very reachable through WBTW.
Okay, so that was my next question.
Yes.
If a school group wants to come visit WBTW, how do they schedule that? Is there a website they go to?
WBTW.com, and there is a contact form on there.
And same for church groups if they want you to come speak?
Yeah.
Okay. WBTW.com.
Yes.
Well, gosh, Frank, you've done a great job explaining everything. You're just really encouraging the rest of us to stay outside and enjoy the great weather that we have here in Pawleys Island.
Especially this time of year. With no hurricanes, fall is just perfect.
It is a perfect time of year. Well, thank you so much, and we hope to see you real soon.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Frank. He has a lot of hobbies. In addition to working as a meteorologist and understanding the weather and forecasting the weather, he has a lot of hobbies, growing all the fruit trees in his yard. We didn't even see the grapevines and all the grapes. And the beekeeping. He does all that. So I learned a lot more about the beekeeping. If you ever have a swarm of bees in your yard or your neighbor has a swarm of bees, post a notice about it on Facebook and tag Frank Johnson's name in it. And he can see that and he will come over there and he will vacuum up the bees to save them and protect them and keep them growing. We need bees to pollinate our flowers and our fruits and vegetables. So let's save the bees. If you have a swarm, get in touch with Frank on Facebook. Also, I wanted to tell you about Frank and and Susan and their children have always participated in the Pawleys Island Beach Sweep. Most beaches and creeks, I know Merle's Inlet has a creek cleanup and W has a beach sweep. Litchfield, I'm sure, has a beach sweep. It's just a time when after our summer visitors have left that volunteers go along and just pick up the extra trash and things that were left behind. So Frank and his family have always participated in the Pawleys Island Beach Sweep and kind of been in charge of that, actually. So if you would like to be a part of that, just go to Facebook to Pawleys Island Beach Sweep and you will find more about that. I think they usually collect the trash in September. Also, Frank and Susan are part of another trash picking up group called Litter Free Waccamaw Neck. They are so brave. They walk along the highway picking up trash. And that is pretty scary. That is not easy to do when cars are whizzing by at 60 and 70 miles an hour in big trucks. So they do wear the orange vest, and sometimes the sheriff deputies will come and try and put on the blue light to protect them while they're doing it. But if you want to be part of Litter Free Waccamaw Neck, they need more volunteers to help pick up the trash. There's a Facebook page for that too, and they'll probably announce their next time that they're picking up trash. They particularly need more volunteers from the Hog Heaven to the Georgetown Bridge area. That bridge. So if you could maybe get a group and cover that area one Saturday a month, that would be great. The other thing I wanted to tell you about is Susan Johnson works at a very cool place called Black River Cypress Preserve. It is privately owned. It is at 16368 County Line Road in Andrews. 16368 County Line Road in Andrews. Such a cool place. They have hiking trails, biking, they got kayaking, they got swamps, they have tours. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to cypresspreserve.org to learn how you can schedule a visit to go there. But that's a super cool place where Susan works. And some of the other people that do Litter Free Waccamaw Neck also work at the Black River Cypress Preserve. If you, I think I already said, if you have a bee swarm, just mention that on Facebook and link Frank Johnson's name to it. And he'll usually come to your home or your property and vacuum up the bees, take them back to his beehives. Bees are important. We need them to pollinate our flowers, our vegetables, and our fruit. So let's save the bees. And Frank also has a Twitter page, or X as we call it, and it's at WBTW_Frank J. If you'd like to schedule your group to go to the weather station, you go to WBTW.com if you have a school group, or if you want your church, if you want Frank to come to your church to talk about hurricane season before hurricane season starts, he'll come talk to your group about hurricane season and what to do to prepare. Also, go to WBTW.com to schedule that. I hope you enjoyed episode 17 of A Slice of Pie podcast. We have another great guest scheduled for next week, so I hope you'll join us. Please go rate, review, subscribe to either this YouTube page or to wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope your football team wins. And until we see each other again, God bless you. Have a great week. See you soon.